Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Brian Murphy, and all of Canes country is still buzzing after Carolina's incredible Game 2 comeback victory. I'm joined by WRAL's Ryan Bassesi to discuss all things Carolina Hurricanes. If you somehow missed it, the Hurricanes trailed the New York Islanders 3-0 in Game 2 on Monday night at sold-out PNC Arena in Raleigh. Carolina then scored 5 unanswered goals, 4 of them in the third period, for a dramatic 5-3 win and a 2-0 series lead in their best-of-7 playoff against the Islanders. Game 3 is Thursday night on Long Island. And Ryan, wow, what else can you say? At any point did you give up on the Canes?
I think I did after the third goal. I think Anderson had like two of the Islanders' goals were on one-on-one situations, and the Canes didn't play poorly in the first 2 periods at all by any stretch of the imagination. But the fact that I think they hit 2 posts in the at least 2 or 3 posts in the second period, and the Islanders got the 3 goals despite having I don't even think 10 shots at that point. Just kind of felt like it wasn't their night. And as much as we've seen the Hurricanes have a flair for the dramatic in the postseason, it didn't feel like it was destined after 40 minutes at least. But we saw why now. The Canes have had that reputation for postseason dramatics in the final 20 minutes there.
Well, Carolina outshot New York, 12-4 in that second period, and then 17-1 in the third period. But late in the game, they were still down 3-2. In the third period, they pulled their goalie, and for those of you not familiar with all these hockey terms, we'll explain some of them. That is that you get an extra skater on the ice, but you leave your goal wide open. And that's when the magic really starts. Sebastian Aho ties the game with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left, and 9 seconds left later, Jordan Martinook gives the Canes a 4-3 lead, and they would add an empty net goal, for the final margin. For a long time, it felt like that ice was slanted, that everything was tilted in the toward the Islanders' net, whereas the Islanders were playing sort of uphill, and Carolina got to play downhill.
Yeah, puck don't lie. This game kind of met all the past and present Canes regular season mottos and postseason mottos, cause chaos, relentless, whatever it takes. There's a little bit of all of that, but I think some ways you can characterize this game as a theft, like the Canes stole it. And if you're the Islanders, you think you should have won. But I mean, the actual stats from this game suggest that the Canes won it pretty handily. They dictated the pace of play, they controlled the final 2 periods, and then got a well-deserved win. I think the Islanders got credited with 1 shot on goal over the last 30 or so minutes, and the Canes had something like 21 minutes of offensive zone possession time. As I said earlier, they hit at least 3 posts. All of those, if you're not familiar with hockey, all of those are pretty familiar of a team that's going to dominate the game and win 5-1 or 4-1 or something. But the flair for the dramatic, those Canes, man. And it's just the Islanders had a decent game plan, I think. They blocked 36 shots last night. They blocked 21 shots in Game 1 and could have won Game 1. They outshot the Canes in Game 1, 34-26. But we saw Anderson, Freddie Anderson, as fans call him, take control of that game in net and help us really kind of win the game for his team. And kind of you need to see that happen maybe once around. In the playoffs, you need to have your goalie steal a game, and that's what happened in Game 1.
Sorry to interrupt. What I found bizarre about Game 2 is that once the Islanders got that 3-0 lead, it seemed like, okay, they weren't even trying to score. They were just trying to hang on. We got our 3 goals, now let's just get out of here, get out of Raleigh with a win, split the series 1-1, and the Hurricanes obviously didn't let them.
Right, yeah. I think the Canes have too many bullets in the chamber for the Islanders at this point, and I don't now you feel like you're riding a huge wave of momentum, and that's kind of a cornerstone win. And even though it's only 1 win, it feels like you're maybe on the brink of something special this postseason. So we'll see. I mean, the Islanders could definitely steal a game or 2, but I don't know how they come back from that.
Well, let's spell it out for some folks who haven't been rocking the red or cheering for the Hurricanes, for years. The Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup in 2006. That's their only time they've won it. And then they went through a long playoff drought where they didn't even reach the postseason. But, since Tom Dundon bought the team, they made the playoffs 6 straight years. And they're one of the best teams in the league this year. Still, it takes 16 wins. You've got to win 4 of these best-of-7 series to take home the title. Why does this team specifically, there's been a lot of good Carolina teams over the last 6 years, but why does this team, have a great chance of being that last team standing?
They've got a good mix of goal scoring, and they've got a good mix of goal scoring and defense. They've got two goalies really that have played really well. Anderson has had tough luck with his health in recent years, but he's come back this season after missing a big chunk of it and played really well. So I think they've got two strong goalies, and that's kind of a big part of it. And if they can get their stars to play well, which they got last night, Seth Jarvis and Sebastian Aho, and they've got a good shot as anyone. And as we said earlier, as we found out last week, they're the Vegas favorite, and they've been in good position entering the postseason before. But I don't think they've ever been the Vegas favorite, which everyone understands now that we have sports betting in North Carolina.
Yeah, I think the other big thing for this team is at the trade deadline, they went out and got a couple of really good players to add to their nucleus.
Yeah, that's right.
Jake Gensel, who had the last empty net goal. Evgeny Kuznetsov, who had the first goal of the postseason in Game 1. These are guys. One of the knocks on the Hurricanes has always been great defense, really smart, tough players. They just lacked goal scorers, guys who could put the puck in the net. And in the postseason, obviously, you got to be able to score to win. Add in those two guys, along with maybe the development of Aho and Jarvis and some of these other guys who have come along. Feels like maybe now they have enough offense to do it.
Yeah, and last year they had almost the same group. They did not. They weren't as aggressive, I think, at the trade deadline, and so that's an interesting contrast to this year when they go out and make two big moves, and they've absolutely paid off so far. You're right.
We'll be right back to talk a little bit more Carolina Hurricanes. All right, we're back, and Ryan Bassesi of WRAL is here with me. And you just mentioned it before we went to break. The Carolina Hurricanes are the gambling favorite to win the Stanley Cup. But every team needs a little bit of luck or magic. I mean, it's hard to get those 16 wins. It felt like Game 2, the comeback, sort of a galvanizing type of game that when we look back, if the Canes are the Stanley Cup champions, or even if they make it to the finals, that's a win we're going to talk about for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know what the statistical difference is, but when the series is tied 2-1 after 2 versus one team is up 2-0, there's obviously a dramatic, favor of the team up 2-0. But you need kind of a game like that, at least one or two in every postseason to win the Stanley Cup, especially when you've got to win 16 games over a 2-month period against playoff teams. So that's absolutely a game that could be something to point to for later rounds.
A lot of stats came out of last night's game. I think they flashed it on the television that the Islanders were 88-0 when they had a 3-goal lead in any playoff game. Doing some research after the game, the Hurricanes, so when they win Game 1, have now gone 10-0 in Game 2. So if they can get the Game 1, they go up 2-0, which is obviously a huge deal in a best-of-7 series. The series will continue in Long Island on Thursday, and then Game 4 is up on Long Island on Saturday afternoon. When you look at this Hurricanes team, and certainly the other teams in the East. Now, last year the Hurricanes made it to the Eastern Conference Final. They were swept out of the playoffs by the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers are back in the playoffs this year. The New York Rangers, who were the best team in the regular season, could be their opponent in round 2. When you look in the East, who are the teams that the Hurricanes maybe should be looking at, or Hurricanes fans should be looking at as possible, people that could get in the way of this?
Yeah, I think you mentioned two of them, the Rangers and the Panthers. I think the Bruins too also have a really strong chance of doing something in the playoffs. But I think it's just those three. When it comes, the 4 in the East that comes to mind are Carolina, Florida, Boston, and the Rangers.
And the Rangers are playing the Capitals in round 1, and so the winner of this Islanders Hurricane series will play the winner of that series. Rod Brindamore, after the game and then again the next day, talked about how they made some memories last night. Now the Hurricanes don't get a chance to kind of revel in that because they've got to get ready for Game 3. But for the fans, for the 19,000 or so that were at PNC Arena, and they've sold out 63 straight games, the Hurricanes have. This has really become Raleigh's team and the Triangle's team. That's a night they're never going to forget.
Yeah, and now that the Canes have been in Raleigh since 99, 25 years now basically, you've seen like kids who are people who were kids in 1999 now have kids their own now. So this is becoming kind of, as we've seen the evolution of the Canes come, and they've kind of built up credibility in the area. this is becoming more entrenched in the area. So you're just gonna see it become more and more fortified, and the fandom around here, which we know people love sports here and they love a winner, so they're gonna support a team that has playoff success and is able to put a good product out on the ice, and that's what they've been really since Tom Dundon took over.
When we look, we just saw this in March, right? NC State's men's and women's basketball teams both made deep runs in the NCAA tournament, both made it to the Final Four. And so you saw how Raleigh kind of got around them. The one thing about the Hurricanes is there are no Duke fans, there are no UNC fans. Everyone is certainly in this area. There are lots of Islander fans and Ranger fans and Bruins fans, but large majority of people are Hurricanes fans. There's not a divided loyalty among local teams, and so the fact that the whole community kind of gets together to rally behind this team, I think it makes it kind of unique. And the fact that the playoffs are so long gives lots of fans a chance to kind of get on board. Okay, well, if I wasn't excited when the playoffs started, well, game two kind of got more people excited. And if they win this series, more and more people will kind of get into it.
Yeah, it's a galvanizing force when you win a game like that. And it's like you can't get kind of PR like that just when you win a game in that sort of dramatic fashion. But yeah, I think you're going to see more and more Canes fans come out and more support for the team grow more so and more so. And it's, they won the Cup in 2006, and that you obviously can't, get better result than that. They've come close the last couple of years, but I think, this is the best shot they've had in a while.
Well, one way you can get a better result is, you could turn that winning a Stanley Cup into momentum moving forward. And the 2006 team didn't really do that. There was like I said, I think a 9-year playoff drought.
That's what we finally have now, and right. That's just so important. It almost gave like the 2006 Cup, not to sound dismissive, but it almost gave it kind of a fluke quality, and people kind of felt that way in 2006 and 2009 when they went to the conference finals and lost to Pittsburgh, because then they didn't make the playoffs the next year. So the sustainability is really good for the team and franchise.
And the best news, the Hurricanes have committed to being in Raleigh long-term, signed a long-term lease. There are renovations happening at PNC Arena. There'll be development around that Tom Dundon, the owner of the Hurricanes, is a big part of. And so, the Hurricanes really are here to stay, and what a great way to prove that by going on a long Stanley Cup run.
Absolutely. And last year, the outdoor game was like one of the coolest things I think that's happened sports-wise for this area in a long time. And, if they build up the arena, they build up the area around the arena and kind of bring, not only is Tom Dundon's ownership a win for the Canes, I think it's a win for Raleigh and Wake County and the Triangle in and of itself. So, can't say enough good things about, where all this could be headed potentially.
Well, thanks to Ryan Bassesi for joining me today, and thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. If you want more Canes coverage, plenty of coverage at WRLSportsFan.com, as well as all the games are broadcast on 99.9 The Fan. And if you go, if you find more podcasts from WRAL News, you'll find Adam Gold's post-game podcast every day, Canes Corner, after the game. So lots of ways for you to follow the Carolina Hurricanes. And you can find more podcasts from WRAL News at WRAL.com. Search podcast from sports to true crime. There's plenty of shows to keep you informed and entertained. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Daily Download.